Welcome to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
If you have any questions about mortgages or real estate, give us a call at 521-TALK. That's 521-8255.
Or text 1-800-580-CFRA.
With Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth, here is Steve Gregory.
Wow, Glenn is in for Paul. Frank is here. And you know what? It's so exciting because Glenn is here. The phones are going all crazy already. It's unbelievable. Let's go there.
Well, Greg's in the house, too. So.
Oh, yeah, Greg is here, too. Let's go to line one and say hello to Paul. I didn't, how do you pronounce your last name?
It is actually pronounced Rushforth, Rushforth, Rushforth.
Oh, Rushforth.
Okay. Stranger.
Yes, I used to be on this show quite a bit, and apparently I've been replaced by a lot of my agents, which is amazing.
You know what? It's never been better.
Sorry about that, Paul.
Hey, now that you're calling in, Glenn wants to know if he gets the same pay today.
He sure does.
Yes.
I am literally calling in for the first segment just to say hello to everybody and say hello to you guys as well, and also to a big appreciation for my team who's obviously stepping in for me while I'm away.
You have had the longest birthday celebration in the history of birthdays.
It has nothing to do with my birthday. My birthday celebration was a solid week in Mexico, but to be honest with you, my dad's not well, so I've been stepping back just to take a little bit of time with my dad and help my mom with my dad, as well as spend some time with my dad. He's in his 80s now, and you never know when time is going to come. And early on in my career, I was very fortunate. I was able to read a book by Mike Goldgerber called E-Myth. And one of the things that always resonated with me was a quote he said. He says, if your business depends on you, you don't have a business, you have a job. So very early on in my career, I wanted to surround myself with really talented people, and I've done that with my management team, with Angie and Jocelyn, as well as these agents that are just super, super, super talented. Glenn, obviously one that's on the radio. You've heard John, you've heard Dora. Greg has always been on the radio. I just surrounded myself with the best people, and to be honest with you, they're better than me, and that's how you've done a good job when you've trained.
There's no arguments here.
Yeah, you beat us both to it.
Well, you know what? I literally trained them and worked with them and educated them to be the best of the best, and that's why you have someone like Glenn who's filling in for me right now and allowing me to do what I have to do to spend some time with my dad and my folks, and so for that I'm very, very appreciative. But I did want people to know that I'm still here. I'm still alive, but at the same time, it's just a blessing for me to be able to actually take a step back and spend some time with my dad.
You know what? It's been interesting meeting the team, though, on the air, Paul.
They've been very, very good, and it's probably something I should have done earlier, was empowered my team to step up and do a little bit more on the radio. Something, as Frank gets into his 80s, something that I think Frank should do as well. But it's true. It's true. Like Frank's work.
Listen, son.
Well, Frank works his butt off, and then, it's time for him to empower a few of his people to get on the radio and replace him occasionally. And I've been very, very lucky, to be honest with you. If I didn't have such talented agents, I couldn't do what I'm doing right now. And I know that, for the longest time, Dora's been my main girl my main lady who's been on the radio for me, and she still is. But it's nice that Dora actually.
Good to see the political correctness is still there.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. But it's nice. It's nice for Dora to actually have a little bit of backup herself, because it's summertime. I'm sure she would like to enjoy herself as well, and not have to work every weekend. And I know Glenn's probably just salivating at the bit right now because it's stats week and the stats came out, and Glenn's such a stat nerd, it's unbelievable. So I'm sure he's really, really excited for stats this week. That's for sure.
You know what, Paul? Nobody is more excited to get better than your dad, so he gets some time to himself.
Well, that's it. That's it. Actually, when he was in hospital, my mom loved it because she got to get some sleep, and she had some peace and all that. So now that he's home, she's like full-time care, and trying to run a really successful real estate business and take care of my dad. And that's why it's important for me to step in and help my mom with my dad and get better and get on the mend.
Well, your dad texted me this week and said, I'm tired of Paul working from home. Can you get him back to work, please?
The first thing Frank said to me, he got on the air when I called in this morning, and he's like, I'm broke. I'm buying way too many Brexman. So I thought I would nip that in the bud. And, but anyways, it's
Will you be e-transferring him soon?
You know what? When I come back, it'll get back to normal where Frank forgets his wallet.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I take care of everything, you know. But I didn't want to steal Glenn's thunder. I didn't want to take anything from the show. I just wanted to call in and say hi to everybody. I do, the one thing I am going to do before I leave is I just want to wish a couple of very important people a happy birthday early rather than at the end.
No, you have to call back for that.
Yeah.
I do want to wish a couple very important agents, two of my rock star agents. Dora's birthday is this week. She turns 29. She turns 29 again. So happy birthday to Dora.
Is she one of your girls?
She is one of my fantastic ladies. Sorry, it's a figure of speech when I say girls, but she looks so young. She could be a girl.
Yes, nice.
Yes, and also one of my other all-star agents, Kevin Janiga. His birthday's on the 10th this week. I want to wish him a happy birthday and also a very special birthday because I will not be calling in next week because this is the start of her birthday week. But my girlfriend Petra celebrates a birthday next Saturday. So, Frank, you can wish her a happy birthday on the air next week for her.
All right, I will. Well, we're going to dinner on Friday night, so.
But I wanted to call in and say I miss you.
By we, he means him and me.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Steve and I are taking her to dinner.
Well, best of luck to your dad. I hope he speedy recovery to your dad there, Paul.
Family first.
Yeah, family first. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I will be back on the show soon. But to be honest with you, Angie and Jocelyn keep telling me that the agents are better than me. Glenn's better than me. John's better than me. Greg's better than me.
You know what? You know what's funny, Paul?
Can you just give him an expense card at least for breakfast?
Every one of these people you've mentioned that have come in have said the same thing.
You're not supposed to tell him that.
Yeah. I'll be listening, so I don't want any jabs or any, I don't want you throwing any jabs.
No, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that.
All right, boys. I miss you. Have a great show.
See you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Good talking. All right, down to business now. Boy, there's a lot of it, too.
A lot of stats coming out.
Boy.
Real estate stats. I mean, I read, and again, I read the equivalent of 2 or 3 books a week in articles and the 400 emails I seem to get every day that just don't stop. But a lot of cities, their sales are way down. Did I read that from a year ago?
Yeah, so,
the major cities, I don't know that Ottawa is, but a lot of the major cities had, except for Toronto. I think Toronto saw a little bit of
we're pretty flat, aren't we?
The stats are out. Yeah, the sales are actually up slightly, like 0.1% from June of 23. The year-to-date sales are actually slightly up. The big change for year over year is the amount of inventory we have. That's up significantly.
45.5%?
Right, from last year. But, look at big picture. 5-year average, the inventory, what do we got here? Inventory is actually almost 2% below the 10-year average, for example.
But what's average these days? After we've gone through the last 5 bizarre years, is there such a thing as average anymore?
Well, that's where I like to look at pre-COVID type numbers, right? And so here's an example I dug out. June 2015, for example. Our inventory right now is half of what it was in June of 2015.
But we went through periods. Was it 15 and 16 where we reached 11, 12,000 listings at one point? I think it was around that time frame that listings were way up.
They were way up. But sales are pretty comparable. We're within about 2% of where sales were in June of 2015. And then, I'm just trying to put out like your months of inventory sort of equivalent kind of thing. And so I look at what the benchmark pricing did over that time on the housing price index. And prices went up in 2015, January to January, of 2.5%. So,
which is normal in Ottawa.
Right.
That's your traditional, Paul and I have always talked about 3 to 5% seems normal in Ottawa. That's your typical Ottawa real estate
a lot of
market.
years we got 1-2%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, when we had years like in 21 and 22 where you had double-digit increases, that's just not normal for an Ottawa
or sustainable
market.
Either. It's
or
not
sustainable.
either.
No.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? But other cities, I think, didn't maybe fare the same way. But if you remember, a year ago in June, Bank of Canada raised prime a quarter point, and they did it in July. So that really took the steam off of, because we started to see when they froze in January of 2023.
Yeah, it was instant
they stopped,
optimism.
And all of a sudden the optimism started. And went right up until May and June, and then when they raised prime again, a quarter point in June, another one in July, it just took all the air out.
Yeah.
And it struggled for the rest of the year. It was a very, very slow last half, where I think that this year we'll probably see the opposite, where I think we'll start to see some robust months coming probably in the fall, likely.
Yeah, I mean, the next rate
Feels that
announcements,
way anyway.
I think, will change. It's the buyer confidence, that a rate drop, I think, will help with that. Realistically, though, fall, I think, might even be optimistic to see a big change. It'll probably be the spring of next year where we really see the market improve.
But if we're talking year over year, I think this fall will be robust in comparison to last year because, again, if we're going year over year, the air came out. Like once the two increases happened in June and July, it seemed like everybody just said, we're not buying this year. We're going to wait it out. And now that we've started to see the Bank of Canada reduce prime, we still may see another one July 24th. It's closer to 50-50 now because of the inflation report that came out that was 0.2 higher than it was the month before. But the job report came out. The job report, not only in Canada but in the U.S., if you take away government jobs, public jobs, the unemployment's much higher. But the government on both sides of the border have been hiring sprees like ever before, the most ever before. So take away those jobs, and those are very well-paying jobs too. So again, what that does is that increases the average wage too. So that plays a part in this too. So what I'm trying to say is that it's almost like the government is getting in the way of rates coming down. And the inflation number is high because while the interest rates aren't coming down, because keep in mind that the shelter is a big part of the inflation report. The biggest, it's actually
Spending
the biggest
doesn't
number.
help either.
What's that?
Government spending doesn't
No,
help either.
it doesn't either. But at the very least, if interest rates start to come down, we'll see that inflation number come down naturally. So you want to get inflation to 2%. All you have to do is let interest rates come down back to normal, and then we'll see the inflation at 2%, and then we won't have to worry about that part of it. And then it's a matter of the jobs and whether the confidence is there to continue to create jobs. And I know that we lost jobs. We're losing full-time jobs. They're being replaced by part-time jobs, specifically in the U.S. too. You're seeing a lot of that in the U.S., and they're trying to figure out whether those U.S. jobs are people getting a part-time job that can't get a full-time job, or people getting a part-time job because it's so expensive that they're taking on a second job to be able to survive. So
you mentioned interest rates coming back to normal. What do you think the new normal is for interest rates?
Well, again, if we go back to pre-pandemic, because pre-pandemic felt normal. Bank of Canada prime was at 3.95, or bank prime was at 3.95. We're at 6.95. 3% is significant.
Huge.
And for anybody that talks to me and says,
hold that thought before you get
we're going to break. Okay. Oh, yeah. Paul will be losing it right now.
Yeah, he is losing it right now. He's texted me 4 times.
He has. Okay. Go to break.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Signing in for Paul. Frank is here. Greg is here, too, making sure that we're behaving ourselves.
I don't know about He's a referee. He should wear a ref jersey. Every show.
Glenn, months of inventory, 2.5, not bad, up from 1.7 from last year, but 2.5 months of inventory is not horrendous.
No, I mean, that's more of what you'd expect to see in a balanced market. And that's kind of what I was trying to get across with when I was talking about 2015, right? It's 2.5 months of inventory isn't much. So a bit of a change in interest rates, a little bit more buyer confidence. As people start coming out of the woodwork to purchase, it's not going to take a lot of sales to eat up that inventory and put us back in a seller's market.
But if you're listing, you got to have a good-looking place right now, right?
So, yeah, that is absolutely what we're seeing on sales. The ones that really show well and are move-in ready and turnkey seem to go. Properties that need work or in rough shape, it's a hard sell.
Damn. New housing starts are down too this year, 33.6% compared to last year. How does that affect the resale market? Or does it?
I mean, the new housing starts, I mean, it's tough for developers too with the higher interest rates, less buyers out there looking for that stuff.
A lot of that is single-family homes, though. Row homes, up 56.2%. It's obvious where they're putting the money. And semis are up 133% from last year.
No surprise, right?
No.
I mean, there's no surprise in that. And the other benefit of buying, you buy a resale and, I think Glenn will say, the fact that if you buy a resale and it's a house that's 3, 4, 5 years old, obviously the guts of the house are in good shape. They're still fairly new.
And a lot is done for you.
You don't have to worry about the roof. You don't have to worry about the windows. They should still, the furnace, the expensive stuff. But more importantly, maybe they put a fence. Maybe this is stuff that doesn't come with the new house. The blinds are in place. And none of this stuff is cheap anymore. Landscaping, everything. So in some cases, I think a lot of people were looking at it, especially, someone that wants to go move in and not worry about anything. Then all of a sudden they were looking at the resale. But the advantage of a new home today is the fact that it may not close for another year, and interest rates are supposedly supposed to and should be down quite a bit between now and next June, July, August, September. So, that would be the motivation for some people going to buy a new home, not to mention the fact that effective August 1st, you can take a 30-year amortization if you're buying a new build. So there's going to be some little nuggets that might start to push some people to buying a new home. But again, the prices have to be there, and I think that's where the builders are struggling on how to price these because they've got carrying cost as well.
Well, I think it's beyond carrying costs, though,
but
too.
Development charges too have gone up in Ottawa, where we're trying to motivate more homes, but yet the development charges have gone up. The city brought them up.
Well, you've also got land acquisition costs. Land values are way up, and then you've also got just hard materials. Everything from aggregates to lumber, everything is high. Labor costs are high. Yeah. The whole concept of building affordable housing is a bit of an oxymoron. Like you can't build something super affordable now because of the reasons I just stated. It just costs a lot of money to build a house.
I do see, and I live in the West End, I see a lot of these multi-unit buildings going up in Canada and Stittsville. It's incredible to see how many more of those. I mean, for years we went without hardly seeing any. Now I drive in Canada and I see a lot of these 3, 4-story where there's, I guess, a whole bunch of apartments or a whole bunch of units in there.
Oh, they're up 56%?
Yeah, so it makes sense, again, because of the cost of everything. But interest rates have to come down. So, we talked about 0.25%. Last year, when we stopped increasing them for that 4-month period, the market kind of went a little crazy again, motivated, and then they went up 2 more times, and then that kind of calmed the market. Well, we've already seen them come down, and yet it virtually did nothing to the market because the confidence level is not there for Canadians. The affordability is not there for Canadians. And looking at what a mortgage costs and if it's amortized over 25 years, I'm one that says 30-year amortization should be a given across the board. It's crazy.
Why didn't they do that when they made the announcement for
because I think that's a next year announcement to try and get votes, like in my opinion. Just my opinion is, you know what, let's just put a little teaser out there now, and then we'll put the big nugget out there next year when we're trying to get some votes. So, but honestly, I think a 35-year mortgage shouldn't be out of the question either.
Yeah. At
the cost of housing today. I don't understand how. So first-time homebuyers generally used to be in the 20s. Now I think they're in the 30s. So generally speaking, a first-time homebuyer will probably range between 25 and 35. So they can only get a 25-year amortization because they're buying that first home with default insurance. But if I'm 55 years old or 50 like Paul is, he can go buy a home. He's likely got 20% down, especially if he has another home and he's going to sell it and now use the equity. He can take a 30-year amortization that brings him to the age of 80. Like that
doesn't make sense.
The whole thing just doesn't make any sense. It should be, if you want to control it, then control it in a way that you say that there's a certain age limit you can have the amortization to. So you can only have an amortization.
You can't do that, though.
I know, but kind of get the figures based on that. But, interest rates have to come down. The reason I say interest rates have to come down, 60 to 70% of mortgages are coming up for maturity in the next 2 years. These are mortgages that are currently sitting anywhere between 1.5% to 2.5%. It will not make any financial sense for any of these Canadians who are struggling already to have a mortgage come up for maturity and their payments go up $600, $700, $800.
No, the market will implode.
It will. And we're already in a recession. The numbers can say whatever they want. I talk to a lot of people that are, again, have dual income. They're struggling. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and they've got good incomes, and they're still watching how they spend all their pennies. Like, that shouldn't be the case. They're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, and they're watching everything that they do. And this is a city, the city of Ottawa, where we're well done by. Like, we got some of the highest paying jobs. So I can't even imagine what's going on in Toronto and other cities that don't have the income that we have here in Ottawa. So at some point,
And
what
our
I'm trying to
employment
say,
is better too.
that bubble is going to burst. That bubble is ready to burst soon. And I think once the true numbers come out and the true feelings come out, we're going to see some significant rate drops, which is why I'm strongly recommending an adjustable rate mortgage. 3 and 5 year fixed. I know all the banks, shame on them. They're calling clients that are in adjustable and variable rate mortgages and saying to them, hey, I can get you 1.25% less if you lock into a fixed. But not saying something like their economists say, which our interest rates are coming down. You've already gone through the pain of the last 2 years of interest rates being high.
You're through the worst of it right now, right?
Yeah. So all of a sudden you're coming out of it. And you're going to get better interest rates.
Where do you see?
And you're going to lock in.
Where do you see interest rates going here in the in the year or 2 years? Like for me, when I look at it, just from a pure affordability standpoint, it looks like 3.25% is probably the sweet spot where interest rates need to be to maximize what a buyer's purchasing power is going to be, or borrowing power. Like, do you see interest rates ever getting back to that?
I do.
Yeah.
I think that I hope I'm right, but again, it's all a guess based on everything that I'm seeing and all the articles and all the numbers I'm looking at. But I think it won't be a surprise to see interest rates be in the 3s at this time next year for a 3, 4, and 5 year fixed. In the 3s, where right now we're in the 4s and 5s. That's at least 1%. And don't be surprised if it's in the low 3s. Never mind the high 3s, but the low 3s. Because I just think that Canadians, we're going to start to really see it really filter in the spring and summer of next year. Because that's when those 1.89% mortgages come up for maturity. That's the 5 year period. That's when we're really going to see it.
If we don't do anything by then, we're in trouble.
Yeah. And keep in mind, these are people that they didn't overpay, but they were in really crazy real estate markets where they were bidding $100,000, $125,000 over list.
And they stretched.
So their mortgages are way bigger, but the only reason they were able to take on that mortgage is because the interest rates were 1.5. They'd never, and even though they qualified at 5.25, it doesn't matter. Qualifying was one thing, but when they looked at the rate and what their payment was, that's the reason they bought that house. And now if their payment's going to go up to $700, $800, $900 a month, they're not going to be able to afford it. They're going to have to rethink that strategy of 5 years ago.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back.
We return to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
Welcome back to the show. Glenn is here. Frank is here. Paul is listening, enjoying every second of this high-quality real estate entertainment.
He's learning.
He is learning. Hey, listen, percentages can really skew numbers, Glenn. 45.5% higher for active listings, right?
Yep.
Which is 57.8% above the 5-year average, but 1.9% below the 10-year average.
Exactly.
That just goes to show you what the last 5 years, like, throw them out.
Yeah. So, the whole pandemic thing, I had this conversation many times with buyers and sellers when we're looking at these kinds of stats and ever using the term typically or seasonal or normal. It just, that goes out the window because the market was all over the place in that period of time. So looking pre-pandemic and seeing what long-term patterns look like, I think that's where your 10-year average comes into play.
Yeah. But even still, I mean, you can't really blend all of this together. You can't blend the last 5 years into over 10 years.
No.
It's very difficult to get a good reflection of what the market is actually doing, unless you just say, what are we doing compared to last month or the month before? Yeah.
So one of the things that I also look at when I dive into these stats, as Paul alluded to, I like to nerd out on this stuff. It's not just, like months of inventory, because at 2.5 months of inventory, we should be teetering on a seller's market, balanced market, but the market's not behaving like that. So when I dive deeper into it, I look at, okay, the number of new listings coming to market and how quickly those are being absorbed. And that has dropped significantly. So we're seeing upward trend on inventory. So the market is just simply not behaving like a market with 2.5 months of inventory.
So what's going to change that? A rate drop? Is that what
That's
we
the
need?
theme.
That's
Yep.
what we need.
Yeah. Rate drop for sure.
More than one. We need more than one.
Yeah.
Well, they went up so fast, right?
They
That's
did.
why I'm saying it's more than one. I mean, they went up. 4.75%, and now we've had a quarter point.
Yeah, but
back,
they went up
so
50
4.5.
basis points. And
Exactly.
3/4.
75. that's why the quarter point, then I think the drops are going to be a quarter point. We might see a half, but I think the drops are going to be a quarter point. And that's okay if they're continuous. What we can't have is a quarter point, and then we got to wait 4 months before we get another quarter point and then another 4 months, because that's not going to go. That's not going to help. And as much as we talk about real estate, it's not all about real estate. It's businesses too. Businesses survive off of lines of credits. Business lines of credits, the interest rates have gone through the roof on it, which are forcing businesses to have to decide whether they want to stay open. Look at how many businesses shut down because they had to pay back that CERB or whatever it was, the business CERB that was there. Yeah. They didn't have the money, so they just shut down. So again, I mean, businesses are feeling the cost of this, and again, Canadians are struggling. So restaurants are going to hurt.
I think the variable for sure is impacts those lines of credit type.
Prime rate does, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the fixed rate, though, I think right now is the bigger issue with people purchasing a home. There's not a lot of people out there able to qualify and buy with a variable because you have to qualify at such a high rate. A lot of people are looking at those 3-year or even 5-year because that's
the 5 years lower than the 3 years. So.
Right. And that just allows them more affordability.
But that's unfortunate because it's going to cost them more money over time.
That's why I think, guys like Frank are saying 5 years not the best idea, but you may have to in order to be able to qualify the house you want. Right. But, what do you see happening with the bond yields and that?
The bond yields have been, so a week ago, did nothing but gradually go up because the inflation number came out. This week, we're seeing it gradually come down. Specifically yesterday, we saw it come down 15 basis points yesterday, which is significant in the bond market, both the 10-year in the U.S. and the 5-year, because both countries came out with their job reports, and both of them didn't hit the consensus. So again, we need more of those reports to come in for interest rates to come down. And for the Bank of Canada, I still think Bank of Canada is going to drop on July 24th. I know it's 50-50, but I still think the right move, if they're doing what's right for Canadians, if they feel they have to do what's right for Canadians, inflation's coming down. Even though we had a little blip in there, it's coming down. Some of the controlled costs are the ones that they can control. So they can't control oil. Oil's out of their realm, so they can't do that. But hopefully grocery stores will continue to keep prices flat, if not drop food prices. If we can start to see some of that stuff. Well,
good luck.
Well, look at the heat that some of the grocery stores are taking because, they had, and I know that a bunch of stores are discontinuing it now, where if you buy 4 of them, you pay $2.25, but if you only buy 1, you're paying $2.89 for it. And they're taking a lot of heat for that because people can't afford to buy 4 of something, so why should they get a better deal than?
And now we can't even drink our sorrows away.
Boy, that's another thing.
You can order it online, apparently.
Which sounds crazy, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound crazy?
Well, they still have all those convenience stores that are out of town.
Yeah,
you can
I think Quebec.
They're going to get a lot of good business.
SAQ is laughing right now. They love this for the next 2 weeks, but maybe I don't know. I mean, I just think that interest rates are so critical to not only real estate but to everything else around us that if Bank of Canada doesn't continue this trend of bringing it down, I don't know what the answer is, but I know it's not going to look good in 2025.
No,
that much we know.
Of the numbers you evaluated, any surprises, Glenn? Anything jump out at you? You went, whoa, this isn't what I was expecting.
Not really, because we kind of expected to see this with the high interest rates that inventory would creep up. I guess one thing that is nice to see or is reassuring is even with this increased inventory and sales that are a bit stagnant, is that the prices have maintained. Year over year on overall is off by about 0.5%. So your benchmark price has been there. The property types that have maybe been impacted the most are your condo apartment, and they're down about just about 2% year over year. Not a huge change. So the market prices have remained stable.
Is that because there's more condos available?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many variables in that, but
No, I want a definitive answer.
I'm trying to dodge it like a lawyer, right? Yeah.
Are people beginning to sell now because they have to? Have you seen that yet?
I haven't necessarily seen a ton of that, and really, if you do, that's when you start seeing, the prices that could drop, or What I have noticed, just with sort of feet on the ground, is more of the buyers being bold with lowball offers and things like that.
Depends on the neighborhood, though, doesn't it? Because
Totally.
so I've got some clients that are in bidding wars. It's just, you are? Like, I look at them and I say, you are in a bidding for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to go in without any financing.
Ooh,
really?
In these times?
Yeah, really?
Few and far between, but it happens.
I wouldn't
But it's
be
some
doing
neighborhoods. It's a rarity, but we're starting to see a little bit of it.
Yeah.
On what? Single-family homes or?
Either townhomes or single-family homes.
Really?
But I think it's the neighborhood that probably dictates that, no?
Price point is a big factor of that. I mean, there's a lot of variables. Neighborhood for sure, price point, condition of the home. If you got a real gem and you underprice it, yeah, I mean, you can get multiple offers in any market. It's just not common in this market. And a lot of buyers are going to balk at it because they have choice and they're going to not compete. What was interesting, though, last week, I was helping an out-of-towner who is moving here for work, and they wanted to rent for a year before they purchase. And we saw a beautiful townhome, and it was priced where we thought it should be. I mean, $2,800 for a townhome rental in Riverside South.
That seems absurd.
For sure. But they had 5 offers, and it actually rented over the asking price.
Yeah. See, that just seemed already a $2,800 for a townhome seems absurd to begin with. For there to be a bidding war for that, it just, again, that's a sign of where we're at, where we've got a lot of first-time home buyers that are basically sitting on the fence and saying, we cannot afford to buy. Let's just suck it up and rent for another year.
Is down payment the problem or cash flow?
Down payment is a big part of it, because if you're out there paying $3,000 a month for rent, as a young family,
how do you save it?
Good luck. How are you saving up your down payment?
Well, Canadians are not saving. In fact, we're the 3rd highest household debt in the world.
Yep.
3rd highest in the world. Number 1 among the G7.
Yep.
A lot
I
of
don't
that
see the Liberal government boasting about that.
is that debt mortgages or is that debt? I know
it's a combination.
I know
of
it's
everything.
a combination. What do you think holds the most weight there?
Well, it's interesting that if you look at the Canadian population, what is it? 60% don't have mortgages and 40% do. So it's interesting that 40% represents such a high debt load when there's 60% that don't have any mortgage on their homes. So, it's kind of scary to think that we are that high when really more than half of Canadians don't even have a mortgage on their house.
But how are people going to be able to afford a house if we're the 3rd highest debt load?
Well, we've been near there probably for the last 15, 20 years. I don't know that a lot has changed.
Yeah, you see a lot of generational wealth transfer too, right? You get parents and grandparents that are passing money down to kids to help them get in the market. We see that a lot.
You know what I'd like to see? Again, just me and another idea that I pop out there, for a parent to be able to do a home buyer withdrawal from their RSP to help their kids. So if they've got money in an RSP, why can't the parent take out money out of their RSP tax-free to give as a gift to their kids to buy a home?
But you have to pay it back eventually?
Well, either the parent or the kid, but at least let the parent, because most kids, and again, we talk kids in the 25 to 35 year range, don't have RSP savings. It's a great tool that's out there to take money out of an RSP, but there's a lot of first-time home buyers that don't have. We're starting to see first-time home buyers go into that savings plan that's been introduced, which is a good plan, $40,000, $8,000 a year for 5 years. That's awesome. But I'd love to see, number one, you're right, $2,800 a month rent. I don't know who's got $8,000 sitting around every year. It's really tough to have $8,000 sitting around. But if you've got parents that are eligible to take money out of the RSP and give it to their kids instead of having to finance their home and do a home equity line of credit, why not let them take the RSP money out and be able to gift it to their kids that way without being taxed on it?
Yeah,
that would be
thinking
a nice little...
Thinking outside the box for sure, I think is going to have to be a solution for sure. Or whether it's even looking at more rent-to-own type situations where you're helping someone
get
for sure. But if there's some kind of structure to come up with to help people with the down payment, because that becomes such a big problem. You've got the cash flow to support the $3,000 a month rent, but then there's nothing left to save for the down payment. The
only way the rent-to-own works is if it's government-backed. Because the private companies that have done it, so many of them have gone bankrupt and belly up. And, a lot of times...
Yeah, I'm sure government would do a great job there.
Well, if they got the right person to do it, yes. But again, it's all a matter of finding the right person to manage that portfolio for them, that puts strict guidelines in place that at least protects the renter, because the issue, when people call me about a rent-to-own, I say the issue is the renter. If the renter doesn't qualify for a mortgage, you put a 5-year plan in place and the renter doesn't qualify for that mortgage 5 years from now, what are the repercussions of it? And that's where there's a.
But we can come up with
crack.
all these ideas till we're blue in the face. Right now, the government does not want to spur on the real estate industry.
But I think they're changing that tune because, number one, we're not building enough. And number two, I think they're seeing that there's Canadians that are going to be in trouble at renewal time. So if these interest rates don't come down, we may have surplus. We might go from one aspect to the other if the interest rates stay the way they are right now.
Yeah.
If they stay the way they are, days on market will be what?
But I think going back to what you're saying, they're not building enough. I don't think that's going to fix the problem either, because it just, what I was saying before, just the cost of construction and land acquisition, it's not affordable.
And it takes too long.
Well, it takes a long time, but it's also the most expensive property. It's brand new. It's like everyone going out and buying brand new cars. Like it's a first-time buyer is not going out and buying a new home. They can't afford it. Like $1 million detached house, new construction.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. You got it.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Line in for Paul. Frank is here. Greg is doing his thing quietly.
Trying to.
You're so quiet.
It's Mr. Referee. Says, don't say that.
What is the actual mood of the people you're talking to? You're out in the streets every day, Glenn.
It's just cautiously optimistic, I guess.
And what type of buyer? Are these people that have been saving for years? Are they on their second home?
A lot of the people I'm dealing with right now are people that are in existing homes trying to decide what to do, whether they should hold on for a little longer, make a move now, those kinds of things. So it really involves having a in-depth conversation to understand what their needs are, because the advice can be all over the map depending on
moving up or moving down.
Well, yeah, that will depend on the advice, right? So, someone looking, for example, to retire and cash out, that kind of thing, well, maybe you want to hold on. But someone looking to move up, well, if you can afford it, it could be a good opportunity because your gap in pricing is closed. It's more cost effective to make that move up.
So if we go down a full point over the next 4 or 5 months, what will that do to home prices? I asked the easy question.
It's tough to quantify exactly what would happen, but I think what's going to happen as the rates start to ease down, we're going to see more of that buyer confidence come back into the market. And as that happens, I think we'll see price gains. I don't think we're going to see the huge 20% year-over-year gains that we saw in the peak of the madness, but a return to a more normal blue chip type market that Ottawa is known for, I think, is what we will see.
The best thing we can do for first-time home buyers is increase amortization.
Yep.
And the qualifying rate.
Qualifying rate needs to be adjusted. The 2 points above whatever contract rate you get is ridiculous. It's forcing some people to take a fixed rate when it's absolutely the wrong decision right now. But you're forcing, first-time home buyers to settle at 4.79, 4.74, when a year from now that same 5-year mortgage could be in the threes somewhere. So then they kick themselves. They're already struggling. Why not? If they came out with the stress test, they came out with this mortgage qualifying rate, just set a rate, and regardless of the term you take, that's the rate you qualify at.
And change it if you have to.
And you could change it as you see the environment changing. So it's not rocket science. I'm sure they have the reasons why they do it the way they do, but I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with that. But I think a lot of people, including most Canadians, don't agree with that. Let's get a qualifying rate. And, we always said the stress test was put in place. It's accomplished its goal. When we hit the low interest rates like we did in 2020, 2021, Canadians were still qualifying at 5.25%, and that's okay. But Canadians were making their decisions to buy that home based on what their payments were, not what the qualifying rate. The qualifying is one thing. Reality is something different because we qualify people based on their gross incomes. Last I checked, 30, 40% of your pay doesn't come back to you. It goes to taxes, CPP, everything else. So they made their decisions based on, if I bought this townhouse for $750,000 and I put 10% down, what's my payment going to be? Well, based on 1.79, your payment's going to be $3,000 a month. I can afford that. Great. Now their mortgage comes up for maturity. Now the interest rate is 4.5%. Now that payment goes up to $4,200. Well, now it's a totally different story. Even though they qualified at 5.25%, they didn't make their decision based on that 5.25%. They just qualified on the 5.25%. They made their decision based on what their payment was, And if the renewal comes up and their payment is that much more, they regret that decision, number one. And number two, they got to consider maybe selling it altogether or maybe staying in it, re-increasing the amortization. Hopefully they got 20% equity in it that they can increase the amortization back to 30 years, keep their payments the same, or they got to sacrifice some things. And that's the part that I don't like, is the fact that maybe we're going to see parents sacrificing their kids going into activities because they can't afford it anymore. Maybe they're going to buy food that isn't healthy for them. So now that's going to tax our health system down the road, and not to mention the fact that it's not good for the family. So we need to see interest rates come down for the sake of everyone, and that'll bring inflation down, and it should not drive real estate prices crazy like they did during the pandemic. It shouldn't.
Unless we get fewer and fewer listings, and I don't see that happening.
No, I don't either. I agree with what Frank's saying. I mean, just a bit of that rate drop is what it's going to take to get the activity going again. And
but
really
with the economy being what it is now, is it taking people that much longer to save? Like, how delayed are first-time home buyers now? Are they 3 years delayed, 5 years delayed because of the cost of living?
Great question. I mean, it's just
sort of rhetorical.
I mean, the cost of living is way up from everything from food to rent, everything, right? So sure, it's more challenging to save up, and the increase in income is not keeping up with how much inflation went up, especially over the last 3-4 years. So
I hope you have rich parents.
Yeah, you talk about the $2,800 month rent for that townhouse and went for more, but let's just say it went for $2,800. By the time you put internet, utilities in there, you're $3,500 a month in a rental. $3,500. There's not a lot usually for most people left over to be able to save for that down payment. That's the problem.
Yeah, and 5 years ago, that was probably $2,200
or less.
Less.
No, including everything. $2,200. A townhouse 5 years ago would have been $1,500-$1,600 with everything. It would have been $2,200, and then you've got the ability to save some because the incomes haven't gone up to substantiate the cost of everything else going up. That's the problem. That's where we.
Well, what a happy show this has been, huh?
It's reality.
Yeah, reality check time.
It is realities.
I like Big Brother better. Birthdays?
Yep, got a couple. Got my brother-in-law Joe, who's celebrating his birthday today. Joe, if you want to say the Italian name, and my good friends Mike and Nella Di Paolo, their beautiful daughter Michela is tying the knot today with a fellow Englishman, actually, and England's about to start their soccer game, but Marcus. So they're celebrating their wedding today and look forward to a fun night celebrating their nuptials.
Yeah, even though Paul stole your thunder, have you got any?
Yeah, I was going to wish Dora and KJ a happy birthday, but what I will do is some work anniversaries here. So we've got James coming up on 10 years. Our awesome listing coordinator, Kathleen, is at 3. And our closing, Sarah, is 4 years.
How long have you been there, Glenn?
This will be coming up on 2 years. With
2
Paul.
years?
Yeah.
I think 2 years. What do you get, a car rental for
Mercedes.
car lease?
Mercedes
lease or something?
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Paul.
Have a great week, everybody.
Have a great week. Support local business and go Canada on Tuesday night.